Yo, what up with it? It is GleekCon, and I'm here again. What am I here with? Another episode of Ye Old Lore of Warcraft, a World of Warcraft show. And we do all kinds of stuff here on this show. We've been doing it for years. Every single thing, pretty much daily, coming out with... we play every game. We look at every book. We look at the manga. We find the obscure stuff. And that's what we're going to do tonight. So on this episode, we are resuming a journey through the defunct World of Warcraft Encyclopedia. This used to be kind of the main source of lore back in the day. Now that website, once they redid the website, it got shut down. You can no longer find this. For a while, it was found in the European version of the World of Warcraft website. And the good folks at Wowpedia managed to rescue all of the entries before that too was shut down. So now this is the only place you can find it. And a lot of the stuff has been tweaked or completely retconned into what is now the official canon lore of the history in the Chronicles books, which are really great. We've covered a lot of those so far. I haven't finished those, but we've covered most of them all the way up through about halfway through Classic, which is also what we're playing. Right now we're doing a World of Warcraft Classic walkthrough, and we're about maybe a little bit more than halfway through that game. So today we're going to cover the entry on Illidan Stormrage. Quite an interesting and cool character. So stay a while and listen to the Warcraft Encyclopedia Illidan Stormrage entry. There are a few entries on this guy. Today, as far as the old timeline goes, we would just look at the introduction here, but we're going to read all of the other entries there. It looks like there's 6 or 7 other entries. We're going to go ahead and read them all. And here we go. He is also known as the Betrayer. He is a unique type of demon that is independent, so he's not really good or evil. Illidan is the fraternal twin of Malfurion Stormrage, and like his brother, grew up as the friend of Tyrande Whisperwind, millennia before the Great Sundering. Unlike Malfurion, Illidan had no patience for the subtleties of druidism, and proved to be a poor student despite their teacher, the demigod Cenarius. We also read in one of the past entries that his eyes, which you can no longer see because of the bandage once he became a demon hunter, they glowed golden because he had massive druidic potential. He just didn't go that route. Because, yeah, Illidan was talented at sorcery, which at the time was a staple of Night Elf society. His magical abilities were cold comfort, though, for he had been born with golden eyes, which were quite rare in Night Elves before the Sundering. Golden eyes were thus commonly regarded as a sign of future greatness, but Illidan showed no signs of achieving anything out of the ordinary. Little did Illidan know that his eyes actually indicated the strong druidic potential. Alright, I guess I didn't have to say that. Fascinated with arcane magic, he learned increasingly difficult spells, but to his discouragement, the Moon Guard did not offer him membership in light of his advanced sorcery. Nevertheless, Illidan remained determined to become the hero his people expected him to be. Soon he found another compelling reason to achieve greatness. One day during a festival, he caught sight of Tyrande dancing in the crowd and realized that he loved her. At some point over the years, he had fallen in love with her kindness, her laughter, her beauty, and her faith. His joy was dimmed only by the fact that Malfurion too had feelings for Tyrande, although Malfurion was slower than Illidan to recognize them. Illidan could see that Tyrande would inevitably choose either Malfurion or Illidan as her mate. It was simply a matter of which twin would prove worthy in her eyes. Illidan redoubled his efforts at mastering arcane sorcery and was elated when chance and quick thinking gave him the opportunity to save the life of Lord Curtalos Ravencrest. The grateful noble made Illidan his personal sorcerer and placed great faith in his young protege's courage and magic. Unfortunately, the demon that had nearly killed Ravencrest was only the first of many to appear all over ancient Kalimdor. The first invasion of the Burning Legion had begun. And this is where, timeline-wise, in terms of the non-canon stuff, we would have broke. But because we've covered it all before, it's not going to be jarring in terms of like our temporal line to go ahead and read all the entries. The War of the Ancients. Ravencrest organized the Night Elves into an army to fight the invading demons. When the highest-ranking member of the Moon Guard, Latosius, was slain in combat, Illidan jumped at the opportunity. He took charge of the surviving sorcerers and directed their combined power to noticeable effect, killing many of the Legion's minions. Even so, the war looked increasingly hopeless as further reinforcements arrived from the Twisting Nether. All of this is also covered in the War of the Ancients trilogy. Very good trilogy. At a critical point in the war, Malfurion disobeyed Ravencrest's orders and left the Night Elf army. He had embarked upon a perilous journey. He planned to seek out the Dragonflights and appeal to them for help. Impulsively, Illidan confronted Tyrande and told her he could no longer remain silent. He confessed his love for her and said that Malfurion had clearly gone mad in his pursuit of Druidism. Worrying about Malfurion, Tyrande rebuked Illidan, who saw that he had spoken too late. She had already chosen her intended, and it was not Illidan. Once again, Malfurion had effortlessly achieved a goal that Illidan could not. This time, Malfurion's victory was particularly bitter, for Malfurion had yet to recognize his own love for Tyrande. The pain of Illidan's unrequited feelings haunted him, and he found himself dwelling on dark thoughts. He had no way of knowing that he was being influenced by Lord Xavius, a satyr with the power to spread corruption. At last, Illidan, too, left the Night Elf army, but he embarked on quite a different mission. He sought out Sargeras, creator of the Burning Legion. Illidan swore allegiance to the Dark Titan, who granted Illidan great power in return. Sargeras burned Illidan's eyes to ash and endowed the scorched eye sockets with magically enhanced sight. As further reward, Sargeras marked much of Illidan's body with an intricate pattern of tattoos that filled the Night Elf with powerful arcane energy. For this apparent shift of loyalties, Illidan would later come to be called the Betrayer. Yet although he did aid the Burning Legion to some extent, he ultimately sided with Malfurion and the other Night Elves. He and Malfurion closed the portal that the Highborn living in the Royal Palace had opened in the Well of Eternity, thus preventing Sargeras himself from entering Azeroth, an outcome that would have spelled doom for the world. Not long before the portal was closed, a group of Highborn rebelled against the Legion and, led by Dathomir Sunstrider, rejoined the main Night Elf army. Okay? All covered in that trilogy. A darkening path. The planet of Azeroth was saved, but the well's magics had been too badly abused, and so the well imploded, shattering ancient Kalimdor into several landmasses. A new ocean was born, and the Night Elf defenders fled before its rushing waves. Reaching Mount Hyjal, the Night Elves were finally able to rest. The ocean waters had reached their limit. Just before the well imploded, Illidan had filled several vials of its powerful waters. He was certain that despite the Night Elves' victory, the Legion would one day return. Despite the grueling war that had just ended, he believed that arcane magic alone could save the Night Elves from a second invasion. Thus he sought out a secluded lake atop Mount Hyjal and poured 3 of the vials into its waters, irreversibly changing the lake into a second Well of Eternity. He thought his people would hail him as a hero. He was wrong. A small group of Night Elves, including a few of the repentant Highborn, discovered what Illidan had done, and most reacted in horror. Illidan suspected the Highborn would try to usurp the Well's power, as they had done with the first well, and so he attacked the group. Malfurion arrived a few moments later and helped capture his twin. As Illidan's brother and a respected hero of the recent war, Malfurion was permitted to determine his brother's fate. Taken aback by Illidan's power, Malfurion decided that Illidan was too dangerous to be left free. Even so, Malfurion could not condemn his brother to death. Instead, he sentenced Illidan to a fate arguably far worse. Illidan was to be imprisoned for the rest of his immortal life. As a consequence of Malfurion's so-called mercy, Illidan spent the next 10,000 years in isolation, trapped in a prison far beneath the earth and guarded by the Watchers. Now that was only slightly tweaked in the War of the Ancients trilogy, little bit in terms of how he added the water to the well to make that second Well of Eternity, just a pinch different. Without belaboring that, I again suggest you read that trilogy if you haven't, it's good. Lost Soul, the Third War. Proving Illidan's fears correct, the Burning Legion invaded Azeroth again during the Third War. Tyrande, the head of the Night Elf government, awoke Malfurion from hibernation, and together they ventured underground to awaken the rest of the Druids. In the process, Tyrande happened upon the entrance to Illidan's prison, and she decided that he would make a strong ally. Although Malfurion tried to stop her, she led her sentinels into the prison. The Watchers would not surrender their prisoner without a fight, and so Tyrande and her soldiers slew the guards who barred the way to Illidan's cell. She told Illidan that his people needed him to help fight the Burning Legion again. Illidan consented to join the fight against the Legion, however, his long and unjustified imprisonment had left him bitter. He told Tyrande that he agreed not out of any lingering loyalty toward their people, but for her sake alone. Free at last, he followed Tyrande upward into the corrupted forests of Fellwood. So that's interesting. In Classic, when we finally get to Fellwood, this is the woods right above Illidan's prison. That's cool. Tyrande and her soldiers departed in search of Malfurion, who was awakening the last sleeping druids. She felt sure that once confronted with the reality of Illidan's freedom, she could convince her mate to give his twin brother another chance. Once she had left Illidan alone, he was confronted by the Death Knight Arthas Menethil, who told him that the demons who had corrupted Fellwood were using a magical artifact to do so, the Skull of Gul'dan. Arthas explained that the Lich King would be grateful if Illidan would steal the artifact from the demons. In fact, Arthas invited Illidan to claim the artifact's powers as his own, which you do see Illidan with that skull a lot in the artwork. Illidan remained hungry for magic, and he was certain that with the skull's power he would be able to overcome the Legion forces in Fellwood. Despite his suspicions about Arthas' motives, Illidan therefore stole the artifact and consumed it, taking its powers for himself. Already marked by Sargeras back in the War of the Ancients, Illidan was instantly transformed into a demon when he consumed the skull's fell energies. Using his newfound strength, Illidan defeated Tychondrius, leader of the demons who were corrupting Fellwood. Not long after Illidan's victory, Malfurion and Tyrande returned to the forest and confronted Illidan. At first, neither Night Elf recognized the powerful demon as Illidan. When they learned what had happened, Malfurion grew furious, dismissed what Illidan had accomplished, and condemned him. Still the arbiter of Illidan's fate, Malfurion exiled him from Night Elf lands. The new punishment hardly surprised Illidan. Malfurion had always been uncomfortable with any power but his own and Tyrande's. Let Illidan's self-righteous twin limit himself to those so-called safer magics. Let him walk his precious emerald dream, while life on Azeroth passed him by. Illidan would never have been content with such a living death. If Illidan was to be forbidden from having anything else, he would have power. That's basically how the first the first Warcraft 3, those are sort of the levels and scenes that play out. Some of my favorite in the entire franchise. I love playing as Illidan as the hero in Warcraft 3. Alliance with the Naga. After the legions defeated the Battle of Mount Hyjal, the Demon Lord Kil'jaeden contacted Illidan. He asked Illidan to destroy the Lich King, who had betrayed the Burning Legion by making Arthas his personal champion and the head of the Scourge. In return for the Lich King's destruction, Kil'jaeden promised to reward Illidan with anything Illidan might want. In the face of Kil'jaeden's overwhelming might, Illidan had little choice but to agree. He therefore summoned a large group of Naga from the depths of the ocean, including Lady Vaj. The Naga who had once been highborn recognized Illidan and respected his magical talent, which was even greater than they had recalled. They agreed to become his allies. In the meantime, Warden Maev's Shadowsong discovered that Illidan had escaped, and so she vowed to recapture him. She and her watchers pursued him through Ashenvale Forest and followed him over the sea to the Broken Isles, where Illidan and his Naga allies entered the tomb of Sargeras. Maev tracked down Illidan just as he acquired the Eye of Sargeras. Confronted by his former captors, Illidan used the powerful demonic artifact against them. He escaped, but the Watchers were left trapped in one section of the tomb, a section that was quickly filling with seawater. The Watchers had done their best to bury Illidan alive. He was merely returning the favor. Out of all the Watchers in the tomb, only Maev managed to avoid a watery death. Illidan's Naga allies sent repeated attacks against Maev's greatly depleted forces, but Maev dispatched a runner who reached Malfurion and asked for help. He and Tyrande arrived in time to rescue the Warden, but Illidan eluded capture. The three Night Elves followed Illidan to Lordaeron, where Illidan and several Naga spellcasters began channeling a powerful spell through the Eye of Sargeras. Malfurion and Maev arrived in time to stop the spell before it could be completed. Furious and exasperated, Illidan explained that he had been trying to destroy the Frozen Throne and its occupant, the Lich King. Naturally, Illidan made no mention of his pact with Kil'jaeden, for Malfurion would not have understood. In any case, due to Malfurion's interference, Illidan had failed, so the pact was now void. Soon, Malfurion and Illidan learned that Tyrande and the small group of her sentinels had been swept down the river Aravas and were under attack by the Scourge. Illidan still loved Tyrande, and so he was quick to offer his assistance. For Tyrande's sake, Malfurion hesitantly agreed to work with Illidan. Malfurion established and defended a Night Elf base, while Illidan and his Naga retrieved Tyrande and her soldiers. In return for Illidan's rescue of Tyrande, Malfurion declared that he pardoned Illidan for his dangerous spellcasting. Even so, he warned Illidan never to threaten the Night Elves again. Largely uninterested in the race he had left behind, Illidan agreed to Malfurion's terms and opened a portal to Outland, where he hoped to evade Kil'jaeden's wrath. The Burning Legion had little tolerance for failure, and that basically takes us through a large chunk, maybe like the first half plus, of the expansion, The Frozen Throne, to World of Warcraft 3, or just Warcraft 3. Lord of Outland. Consumed by the desire for vengeance, Maiev could not relinquish the hunt. She and a small group of her followers pursued Illidan through the portal. Illidan was outnumbered, and so he was eventually recaptured. Fortunately, he was only outnumbered because he had dispatched Lady Vaj and her Naga to recruit further allies, Prince Kael'thas Sunstrider and his group of Blood Elves. These Blood Elves soon followed the Naga to Outland and freed Illidan, who promised to teach them how to feed their addiction to magic. Kael'thas swore allegiance to Illidan, and the prince helped his new lord close all the portals on Outland. By carrying out this endeavor, Illidan hoped to cut off further demonic reinforcements from the Twisting Nether and block any attempts by Kil'jaeden to locate Illidan. The ruler of Outland at the time, a pit lord named Magtheridon, became a feasible target. Illidan led the powerful army of Blood Elves and Naga against Magtheridon, defeated him, and took possession of his fortress, the Black Temple. Yet Illidan did not celebrate his conquest for long. In a storm of magic and fury, Kil'jaeden descended upon Outland regardless of the fact that Illidan had closed all portals on the planet. Illidan had colossally underestimated the Demon Lord's power. Thinking quickly, Illidan told Kil'jaeden that he had only come to Outland to bolster his forces before making a final assault upon the Frozen Throne. Kil'jaeden was hardly appeased, but he decided to give Illidan one last chance. He warned Illidan that failure would result in death. With no other option, Illidan led the Blood Elves and Naga back to Azeroth. The Scourge kept Illidan's army at bay until Arthas and the Crypt Lord Anub'arak arrived. Arthas and Illidan faced off in single combat, and Arthas was the victor. He warned Illidan to leave Azeroth and not return. Since that time, Illidan has returned to the Black Temple. While his allies fight to keep Outland's many portals sealed, Illidan is preparing for the day that Kil'jaeden arrives to punish Illidan for failing to destroy the Lich King. And that kind of takes us to the end of Warcraft 3. All expansions and everything. Illidan the Demon. As is the case with certain demons, Illidan does not consider himself a servant of the Burning Legion. Indeed, Illidan has alternately been the Legion's ally and its enemy at various points in the past. A rarity among demons, he has retained vast tracts of his original personality, despite his demonic transformation. As a demon, he is fundamentally evil and often cruel, but he has thus far been able to preserve a few tattered remnants of nobility. Their inevitable conflict with his ambition and his hunger for power makes him a dangerously unpredictable adversary. Because Illidan's case is unique, there is no point in speculating upon how long his divergence from standard demonic behavior will last. Yeah, again, he's unique, and I'd say pretty long. He's a pretty, just the whole storyline between then what happens throughout the Burning Crusade expansion, and even continuing more and more all the way up into Legion, maybe beyond. I don't know. Can't remember. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But very cool anti-hero, if you could even consider him that. He's just a very intriguing character, and it just goes to show how these original heroes, the Malfurions, the Tyrande, the Illidan, being so nuanced, really so much better than a lot of what's come since. But maybe the ship will be righted now that Chris Metzen and everything is back. All right, so we have another episode in the pipe, 5x5, and it was cool, and I actually like reading about Illidan. It's a neato thing, and just a recap of things we've covered before. Thank you guys so much for watching, for listening, for tuning in, and I will see y'all next time on Lore of Warcraft.